The first of our panellists is Miss Audrey Yeo, leader of LIXIL Water Technology Asia Pacific. Audrey, welcome to the stage. Audrey holds a bachelor's degree from the University Science of Malaysia with over 2 decades of commercial and marketing experience in multinational organizations. She's held senior positions at Electrolux and United Overseas Bank. She joined LIXIL in 2016 and was instrumental in leading and elevating GROA, a LIXIL power brand across Asia. Her pan-regional scope spans 17 countries, delivering a unique, relatable, and high-result customer-centric branding and marketing campaigns. Audrey is responsible for leading, developing, and accelerating LIXIL's water technology business across Asia Pacific, a region poised as LIXIL's future growth engine. Audrey, thank you so much. Next, please welcome Miss Estelle Chan, Head of Brand, Henderson Land Group. Estelle is a passionate advocate for sustainable architecture and design. She joined the company in 2017 as a project manager for their flagship project, the Henderson, quickly advanced to senior project manager and assistant general manager upon its completion. With architectural training from esteemed firms, Estelle has a strong expertise in facade design and public spaces. She's dedicated to integrating art and innovation with environmental sustainability. Estelle, thank you. Next we have Arrizky Magetsari, principal from Aedas. Arrizky has more than 18 years of design experience. He's a principal at Aedas. He's a registered architect with a diverse portfolio of projects spread across Asia and the Middle East, covering various sectors, including mixed use, commercial, office, residential, hospitality. The list goes on. He believes in a collaborative design process, responding to the client's needs and aspirations while achieving a transformative design. Arrizky, you're very welcome. Thank you. Next we have Mr. Huzaifa Chahwala, CEO of Aesthetic Designs. Huzaifa completed his master's in sustainable tall buildings from the University of Nottingham in the UK. Since then, he's been practicing in Mumbai and globally as well, in London, Dubai, and Uganda. He has an expertise in mixed-use architecture and is a lead member. He's also a juror for the master's students at the University of Nottingham and has spoken at various, or numerous, I should say, global architectural events. Welcome. And last but by no means least, Mr. Lim Tiong Haan, the CEO of Heng Guan Development, HGD. HGD is a Malaysian property developer built on a foundation of legacy and ambition. Haan trained as an architect in Australia. He brings over 15 years of multidisciplinary experience. The company was established over 100 years ago, and HGD has evolved into a future-forward company. Under his leadership, the firm is shaping a new era, I should say, of urban living, spearheading a 150-acre integrated township and a landmark 40-story tower as well. Welcome, Haan. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everyone. So, we're going to talk about the 4 elements of course, earth, air, fire, and water. And we're going to start with Arrizky. Arrizky, as cities continue to grow, how do you ensure development doesn't negatively affect the ecosystems, the wildlife habitats, the local biodiversity, and how can we best use local materials?
Well, thank you very much. It's a bit off that I'm talking in development panels because I'm an architect. But the way we approach the design is always we're trying to integrate nature with built environment. Especially now, we are more and more advocating about going through mixed-use development instead of going to a single-use horizontal developments. With vertical developments, we are looking at opportunity to actually create more open space, green spaces at the ground floor. And with the vertical development as well, there's an opportunity to create green, not just in ground floor, but it can be in roof deck, it can be at sky garden, it can be at the roof garden, and all that kind of green elements that we can integrate into the building. And with the vertical development as well, the land use can become more efficient. If you're talking about township developments, the land use can be more efficient, more green spaces. It creates a unique properties and unique feature for the developments, especially here in Asia. In terms of local materials, I think that is something that we believe as well, because again, to design somewhere, we need to understand the context where we're designing for. So it's very important for us to understand what is locally available. Luckily for us, we have quite a fast experience, especially in these regions, both from China all the way to Southeast Asia. So we roughly know what is available, and that mitigates the needs for imported materials. This, especially during this time, if we all know that there's a tariffs war going on and all that, it's actually helped the client to mitigate the risk. And of course, understanding the client side, we understand that the client care about their investment, their maintenance, their OPEX, and also, as I say, mitigating a potential risk.
All right, Arrizky, thank you very much. So that's the principle. Let's find out how it happens in practice in one location. Estelle, Hong Kong is a very special area and has its own characteristics. So how are you balancing these things that Arrizky talks about, particularly in Hong Kong?
Yeah, thank you very much. So Hong Kong is actually 70% natural landscape and only 30% is developed. It's quite contrary to the postcard view, right? You can see like the vertical city with a beautiful like mountainscape at the back. So Hong Kong is a city of contrast. At the one moment you can be in the labyrinth of a vertical city, like really dense and very vibrant. On the other hand, like in 30 minutes or 40 minutes, you can reach like a dramatic sea cliff, and then you'd be hiking like around hexagonal shaped rocks, which is really amazing. So this kind of like compact city with a very good public transport system, infrastructure, is actually in a way a very sustainable way of land use already. Because this economizes like resources, reduces carbon footprint, energy efficiency, and even like preservation of nature. Henderson land holds the largest agricultural land bank in Hong Kong. So we feel like we have a very high social responsibility to make sure that like the development is always sensitive to any urban expansion that may negatively impact the ecosystem. For example, one project called Nam Seng Wai, like in North Territories, in New Territories. It's got 180 hectares in total, and we're only developing 6.5% of that land. So this shows that Henderson land like has a huge commitment to really preserving the natural habitat, because that Nam Seng Wai, it's actually, there's a lot of beautiful wildlife with wetland and mangrove.
Okay.
So in that sense, like we're in the New Territories, we're doing that. And then in the urban landscape, in which Henderson land is actually now a big player in Central. So we had IFC, the really iconic tower, and then we had the Henderson, which is the new flagship project in Central. Upcoming, we're having a Central Harbourfront Project Site 3, that's what we call. And that project, actually 4.8 hectares, it has 35% of green space, and also 60% of that is public open space as well.
Okay.
So that actually like is what we're doing as a developer.
Fantastic, great news. Let's move along to Huzaifa. Huzaifa, you're responsible for a master planning project in, correct me if I say this incorrectly, Rishikesh? Yeah, Rishikesh, the yoga capital of the world. How amazing. But this wonderful spiritual place, the home of yoga, you're sticking a master plan in it.
Right.
How do you maintain that spirituality, maintain the yoga history, whilst also contributing to development?
Thank you for having me on the panel.
Pleasure.
It's always great to be here. And very straight to the point. And yes, so when we talk about these historic cities, right? So Rishikesh is an historic city. And it's got a lot of spirituality linked to it. It's got, as you mentioned, it's not only the yoga capital of the world, but it's also the adventure capital of India. So it's got two contrasting sides to it, where people come in for meditation and to learn yoga. That's where people come to learn, and also experience one of the best adventure activities in India. So for us, it's absolutely mandated that we preserve this serenity, we preserve the natural landscape of the space, and at the same time control development in such a way that the densities are managed and spread across. Just like Hong Kong, it's got a natural landscape barrier which determines the way it's progressing or developing. Similarly, Rishikesh has got the Ganges on one side, and then you have the forest, national forest on one side. So it's pretty much sandwiched in between. So what the government, what we are doing in the government is balancing these densities in such a way that we preserve, we do not make it like another metropolitan high density. We have high density zones away from the city, decongest the city core, and in fact augment the public transportation system such that people can get to places. And that is where, as he mentioned, that mixed use development is the future, right? And Asian countries are very good at it compared to the other cities. Especially if Houston is well known for having very less public transportation, where people are fully reliant on personal cars. So, and we believe that we are in such a time that we sitting here from all over the world can learn from each other's mistakes, right? So you can actually see what mistakes people made 40 years back.
Yeah.
And they're going back and retracting those regulations. So you don't make the same mistakes when you're doing it and planning it in 2025. So to answer your question, for us, the entire focus of the master plan is towards preserving that serenity, preserving those densities, and understanding that every city has a carrying capacity. There is no perpetual growth. Perpetual growth is cancerous. So you have to understand that limitation, and government partnership is absolutely key in it. Government initiative is absolutely key in it.
Perfect. And we'll look more into that in a short while. Haan, Huzaifa was talking about, you don't make the same mistakes 40 years on, and if we have time, we'll talk more about, Haan is redeveloping a project that his company first developed 50 years ago. So there's a challenge for you. But in terms of this idea of sustainability of land use, what's your policy at HGD?
Yeah. Sawadee Krap, my name is Haan, I'm from Malaysia. So HGD, when we start to look at developing, because we have to balance between sustainability with land, so we look into the land use management very importantly. So the very first thing we look into is the land typography. So we see the land, which area is a low zone and which area is a high zone, so we can maximize how to use the land use efficiently. And of course, we have our master planning based on how we plan the low area and the high area. And also we try to minimize any excavation out from the site as well into the site. We have a zero import-export earth policy, so we try to minimize any vehicle consumption, that carbon emission that bring the earth in and out to the site. So I think we study the land typography very well, and then of course we try to design around it. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you. Audrey, it's so interesting, isn't it, to hear all these different, people from different areas trying to do their best to protect as well as develop. And I know that you have a wonderful overview of people's use of materials, etc. So with the rising importance of sustainable construction, tell me about some of the innovative materials that you've seen that have had a positive impact.
Okay. Well, the construction sector is one of the major contributor to climate change. all right? And it's estimated about 19% of direct CO2 emission and nearly close to 18% of energy used in building. Now, as sustainability becomes a non-negotiable tool for both consumers and investors, it is important to keep in mind that, it is a competitive advantage if you are able to produce and supply materials that are recyclable to the construction material. Now, at LIXIL, we focus on circular material, which means that our solutions minimize waste, minimize CO2 emission, and yet able to deliver durability and design flexibility. So over here, I would like to kind of quote an example from our LIXIL housing technology business, which focuses a lot on windows and doors. And most recently, we launched this product called Revere. It's an innovative new circular material that is produced from waste plastics, or even reclaimed wood from dismantled buildings, recycle them. And surprisingly, it actually saves us a lot in terms of CO2 emission. And this material is fully recyclable. And in a way, the benefit is really adding back to the whole circular of construction. Another interesting material that I would like to also share is Premil. Premil is an innovative product that's 100% recycled aluminum, fully certified third party, and it really reduces almost 97% of carbon emission compared to the conventional construction of aluminum. And these are some of the innovations that we continue to work on, as we truly believe that this is where the future is. We need to make a conscious effort to really bringing in circular material that closes the loop of the construction cycle.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. So we've talked quite a lot about earth. I don't know if we'll get all elements included, but let's move on to air in terms of wind, okay? Bit of poetic license, I think, here. Arrizky, what, from your architectural perspective, what more can be done to ensure that high-density cities don't create wind-related problems rather than abate them?
So from the talk yesterday, my colleague Rafael mentioned about we are doing stealth sustainability. So actually the sustainability approach is always ingrained into our approach. So it's always start with passive design. So we need to understand the solar gain, the prevailing wind of the city that we're designing for. So from there, we are informed that certain shapes, certain directions that can actually help the design to mitigate the impact of the wind in the project itself. So I'll just take a case study that our project Parkal that just won awards yesterday. So we're actually moving away from a big box retail that's surrounding the development itself. So we actually break the mass into a smaller village type kind of a retail to allow air to penetrate into the building and pedestrians area. And we actually cover the building itself with ETFE roofs to create another layer of microclimate control for the project.
Okay, that's good. Let's see what's happening in Hong Kong. Over to our Hong Kong correspondent.
Yeah.
So you're in a typhoon area. Everybody knows this. So at the Henderson that you mentioned earlier, the project you mentioned earlier, tell us about some of the technologies that you've incorporated into that building to try and minimize the risks.
Sure. I just want to echo Aristotle's point about passive design. Actually, if you're talking about the Henderson, it's a shame that we don't have an image here. But if you search the Henderson, you'll be able to see the image of it. A lot of people say that it actually looks like a rocket, especially from the below.
They're all Googling it right now.
And yeah, and actually that actually responds to the aerodynamic form of it that actually deflects the wind rather than just head-on taking it so the form of it actually deflects the wind like the typhoon, so it doesn't take on that much pressure. And on the other hand, it's an all-glass building, and the glass that we use on the facade is actually very resilient. We've done multiple tests because of there's a super typhoon in 2019. It's called Magetsari typhoon, and it's destroyed so many buildings on the facade, like all the windows become broken and everything. So at that time, we're still in construction stage, and then we did a lot of R&D to make sure that the glass that we use is very resilient. So let me talk about maybe the glass composition. It's actually made of 4 pieces of glass on the facade. So it's double laminated, which means it's laminated at the outer edge, there's an air gap, and then inner laminated. With the interlayer that we've used for lamination is actually the SGP, which is more superior to the PVB. It's actually even more harder than glass to break. So we've done actually missile tests to make sure that, like, all the standard tests we've actually have a higher standard. But for the missile test, we actually it's an additional requirement from the client side to make sure that, because during the typhoon, what we observed is it's not the wind that's so strong that would destroy the facade. It's actually the flying objects, because we're in such a dense city as well in Hong Kong, so we can't really prevent, flying objects. So we've taken into account the impact load, which actually proves that the integrity of the facade will actually not be broken even with the flying objects as well. So yeah, that's one of the things that we've incorporated into our.
Okay, good to know, Estelle. Thank you, Huzaifa. I think I'm right in saying there's not much that you don't know about wind. Now, let me explain that, because you've actually written a paper on the effects of the wind and all these things that we've been talking about. Does there need to be more regulation? How do we best prepare for these type of events that Estelle has tested for, Arrizky is talking about? Does there need to be more central regulation in order to try and mitigate some of these challenges?
Absolutely. So wind is a very interesting topic in architecture always, because it's unlike sun and unlike other factors which affect the building. Wind is something which is very hard to predict. Especially, yes, predominant wind directions are fine, but we have to understand that the built landscape affects the way the wind actually blows through. So again, coming back to Hong Kong, we all know in 2003 we had the SARS outbreak in Hong Kong, and there was a study which was ongoing called as Urban Ventilation Study, AVA, air assessment, air ventilation assessment, and it was a very definite finding that the building typology and the way the planning was done, that it actually propagated the virus faster than what it actually would have if buildings looked at the CFD analysis or how it interacts with the wind for the neighboring building. So what it did was, wind from one building's apartments used to directly propagate into somebody else's living room, and et cetera, et cetera. So Hong Kong actually, that study was very important because the podiums, the way, the night flushes, and especially air purges of the street level, was not happening as much as it should have happened. So there was air stagnated on the pedestrian level, which is where you have maximum people moving around. So we wrote this paper in back for Mumbai that how we can learn from what Hong Kong has done and how it is now changed and made all major developments to have CFD analysis as part of their wind analysis to ensure that they do not necessarily block other people's wind. And what kind of negative impacts does the proposed design have on the neighboring buildings. So this is very, very critical that we normally, as a development fraternity, we take wind a bit, maybe it's not that high up in the priority, but it should, because the ground experience and then a lot of the pollution which settles down on ground level need to be purged.
Yeah.
And if sometimes very simple mistakes are made to prevent this and block this. So it's absolutely critical that not only looking at one example, but when especially you're doing a master plan, it is absolutely critical to do CFD analysis, make sure, and again, as I mentioned, it has to be public-private, and partnership. Government has to get involved in these kind of regulations.
Okay, good messaging. Thank you very much. Haan, what about that question that Huzaifa mentioned of air quality? It's critical, isn't it, that it remains a priority?
For HGD, in our master planning, we focus on mobility and micro-mobility, which means in our township, we promote walking from, we design green nodes around our township. So within 5 to 10 minutes, you can reach these green nodes. And in these green nodes, you have EV buses. We will provide EV buses that fetch you from each single point to next point of interest. So from there, we try to improve the air quality with EV energy. And of course, in Malaysia, we have abundance of sunlight. So with the sunlight, we get to regenerate the energy and generate for our green buses EV. So with that, we are trying to help with the air quality, just like a lot of big cities in China. Certain sections of the city, they only allow green EVs cars to go in with a green plate. Yep. So that's how we...
Is it, correct me if I'm wrong, and I might be wrong because I often am, but is it you that is encouraging more cycling as well?
Yeah.
Tell us about that just briefly.
Yeah. For each houses that, once we hand over the key, we give each residence with a bicycle. So we encourage them to cycle around the community. And that's how we push, do the first effort. We as a developer, we should be the first one to encourage the community to go further. Yeah.
Okay, it's a great initiative. Thank you. Hopefully people will take away this kind of ideas. Yes, do, please. Congratulate him. It's great. You know, it's sometimes, isn't it? It's this easiest ideas, the most straightforward ideas. It's not difficult to get some bicycles. And I mean, obviously you have to invest. But, you know, it's a wonderful idea, but actually it's helping on a practical level as well. So yes, credit where it's due. Great to hear, Audrey. Let's talk about water, because that's what LIXIL is all about, and we've covered several other elements. How can property developers incorporate water-efficient technologies and designs to reduce consumption better in urban areas, do you think?
Thanks for the question.
Pleasure.
Now, water scarcity is definitely a pressing topic today. I think I'm quite sure everybody talks about this. As of 2022, 2.2 billion people still lack access to safely managed drinking water. And it's estimated by 2015, 5 billion people will face water shortages. Now, this is an alarming statistic and does require urgent need for change. Now, LIXIL is committed to advancing global water sustainability, both today and for the future generations. And we believe, as key leader in water technology, we want to empower people to enjoy the full benefit of water responsibly and efficiently. Right. Now, property developers play a critical role, I would say a pivotal role, in shaping water-resilient cities. By adopting, thoughtful, smart technologies, or even water-efficient solution, we can significantly cut water consumption in both residential as well as commercial buildings. Now, there are already existing tools available today in the market, right? But unfortunately, the adoption rate is still relatively very low. I mean, just to mention a few innovations like sensor-activated faucets, dual flush toilets, low-flow showers, which are all engineered and designed to reduce water consumption by up to 50 to 60%. Now, if we talk about larger buildings, for example, like hotels, commercial offices, right? An IoT-enabled water management system can detect water leaks in real time, preventing water loss and even minimizing property damages. So these tools or this innovation do exist in the market. Now, if you look at in terms of innovation, Grohe continues to work on driving sustainability through technologies and innovation. And I would like to talk a bit about the Grohe Blue system, which dispenses chilled, filtered, and carbonated drink directly from the kitchen faucet. Now, where do you see the benefit? The benefit is really reducing a lot of household bottled water usage, which typically requires 7 liters of water to produce just 1 liter of drinking water. All right? And another example, some of you may have participated in Antoine's session yesterday, where he talks about how design is innovating for the future. And the latest innovation that we presented is the Groher Everstream shower. Now, we all love to have long showers, don't we? Right? But sometimes we do feel guilty of the amount of water that we use. Now, Everstream showers is designed to filter and recirculate water in real time. Now, it enables us to save up to 75% of water savings, 65% of energy saving, and almost 60% of CO2 emission. Now, think about the sustainable living that it's in the near future. I mean, this gives you a glimpse of what sustainable living would look like in the near future, right? So, you know, we need to continue to have this dialogue, this collaboration, where we need to see how we can continue to work together, because, as I said, as a technology, a supplier on water technology, we can't do it alone. We need to work with partners, developers, architects, and designers to really join forces to make this work.
Okay, fantastic, Audrey. Thank you very much. I've just got time for one brief answer each, okay? So we'll try and get through it as quick as we can. Audrey's talked very well about, water supply, water safety, water stability, and water for the end user. Arrizky, very briefly, let's talk about how that water could get to people then. What are you doing to try and design in systems that capture this water in the first place?
So in Aedas, in Aedas master planning, we use the concept of the WSUD, water sensitive urban design. It's actually on how we integrate the water cycle from the stormwater, groundwater, wastewater into the design. And it's not just functional, but it's also enhancing aesthetics and recreational aspect of the water as well.
Okay, that's the brief version.
Yes.
You'll have to engage with Arrizky to find out more about that. Haan, I have to ask you, we've just got a few moments. Your project that you're redeveloping now, that the company, the family business, developed originally 50 years ago. Let's talk very briefly about floodwater. The climate has changed in 50 years. So what are you doing with this project now in Kedah that you didn't do 50 years ago in terms of flooding?
Yep. The time now with the previous few much years ago, seawater rising, weather pattern changing. So during the olden days, a few generations before, architects, planners use mostly hand sketch and small models. But nowadays, the architects and town planner have a lot of information, a lot of software tools that can help to design. So for now, for our new township, architects use BIM software to put on the modeling system. So from there, they can use real data, rain, and they can see which area have more flood-prone area. And with those flood-prone area, the architects come out with a very innovative design. For example, a football field. It can be turned into a water retention pond during heavy floods. So it acts as a water basin, and once the flood subside, the water can release to the river. I think those are the strategies that...
Great, Haan. Thank you very much. Estelle, black rain in Hong Kong. Gosh, it sounds dramatic. It probably is. So what are you doing at Henderson Land to try and prepare for this potential? I'm sure everybody does know, but very briefly, what is that level of rain? It sounds terrible.
Yeah, like Hong Kong is notorious for the black rain. It's creating a lot of flood, especially with the global warming. I think this has aggravated a lot. At Henderson Land, of course, we develop. I think at the building level, of course, we will hire professionals at the very, very early stage to look at the risk and look at how we can add floodgates or add additional drain points. But I'd like to say, from the government level as well, what I know is that because of what's happening last year, the flooding until here. So I think they've done a great job because they actually had a proposal of connecting flood prevention with water conservation. So I think there's a plan to divert all the flood into reservoirs, which are existing in Hong Kong. And this has actually, I looked up, it's actually creating 1,360 more swimming pools of fresh water annually because of that kind of strategy. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. And finally, Huzaifa, we're lucky to have a room full of property development people here. Wonderful panel. What do you think, finally, is the key to more mindful and environmentally aware planning? What needs to be done in your view? And this can be something you discuss with Huzaifa all evening because he's happy to talk about it.
So, I think, I could speak about that a lot. But I'll just say one thing. We need to be mindful about this word sustainability, right? I won't talk about much. I'll just say this, that we need to, as an industry, be very, very careful with the way this word is getting used. Because believe me, people out there have completely lost the meaning of it. It's getting used as a greenwash. People are winning awards for sustainability who have, in fact, negative impacts. There's a building which is won a Sustainable Building Award in London, and then it won the Worst Building Award the same year. So I'm quite sure people from London know which building that is. So the idea that when people see that, when a £1.5 billion project gets a Worst Building Award, people start questioning the whole idea of sustainability. That is just a greenwash. And we as an industry, as you mentioned, what is very critical to us, from architects, planners, developers, governments, everyone, product designers, that we need to safeguard this word and we need to market it such a way that, no, this is actually the future, because architecture has always been a response to the world's problems in the entire history of architecture. And today's world's problem is sustainable, is climate change. You cannot deny that. And sustainability is that answer. It's a response to that. So we keep saying that sustainability is not a luxury, it is the necessity of the hour. And we should not use this word, by adding premiums to it, that you want sustainability, it's going to cost you 10%, 15% more. It's not like that. That's a misconception. Sustainability actually saves OPEX and CAPEX, both.
Okay, Huzaifa, thank you so much. Do we have any questions from the floor? We've probably got time for one question. No?
I'm surprised we've not got one on that.
I'm surprised we don't, actually. Anyone? Okay, well, you can all talk to each other about it later. Thank you so much, panel. Give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you to Lim Tiong, Haan, Huzaifa Chahwala, Arrizky Magetsari, Audrey Yo, and Estelle Chan. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. Thank you very much.